Okay, I think we're late. Live. Live is what I meant. Let me share my screen and we can get started. Hello to everybody. Hello, hello, hello. I won't say, I guess, well, this is January 14th, but for those that are going to see this after, still the same hello to you as well. I'm going to give a few seconds for people to kind of get on, and then I will start this training. Let me send out a message real quick to let everybody know that training is live. Refresh page. Okay. And let me just confirm it's up in the group. Part 4. Yep, okay, we're live, which is awesome. Okay, well, hello again, welcome. My name is Victoria Baylor, and I'm delighted to bring you part 4 of the training we've been doing for over, I think, the past week. And this has been an exciting training. You know, for me, it's always great to start a new year off on a good foot. I know I am not visible today, but the material is, so definitely want you to focus in on that. Of course, if you have any questions, comments, or anything, if you are on the live feed of this, feel free to drop your questions below in the comments section. And if you're watching this after the fact, you're welcome to email me or set up a complimentary brand confidence consultation to address your questions. But we're going to go ahead and jump in on part 4 of 20 mindset and branding habits you want to kill and bury. If you've had the pleasure of participating in the last 3, please drop a comment and a link below. Let me know if you really enjoyed those, because it's definitely been a joy of mine to actually put on this type of training. You know, I guess we can call it a master class. It's always great to share this information because as women, we need to have every advantage we can have. And as I always preach and teach, your brand brilliance is your greatest advantage. But if you're not developing that, and if you're not watching out for the blind spots that happen that actually sabotage your brand brilliance, then you can find yourself not really getting the results that you desire. And professionally, we want to be out the gate. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm in it to win it. I know, I'm sure you feel the same way. If you've gone through times of struggle, immense, confidence issues, immense confusion, and now you're like, look, I'm ready to get this done. Well, that's what I'm here to help you with. Okay, so we're going to deal with, well, before we deal with number 17, we're picking up with today, I want to just reintroduce myself for anyone that has not formally met me or we've not been able to kind of communicate. I'm an intuitive mindset and brand confidence coach. And what essentially that means is that I believe in branding you from the inside out, because branding is not in itself a very difficult process. The difficulty is really pinpointing who you are and understanding your brand identity and tapping into your potential. So all the work happens inside, and then that kind of flows over to the external part of communicating your brand messages, locking in your identity, knowing who's in your brand ecosystem, providing the best type of value to the people that need it most, and that to the same people that can give you, allow you to monetize your brilliance so you can be compensated for your value. That's what this is all about. So this is about getting everything aligned within you so that you can promote yourself and your brand and gain the professional success that you really desire. And without proper branding, it's just a shot in the dark. I hear people all the time say, oh, I'm posting. Well, that's great. What are you posting about yourself? Is what you're posting reaching the right audience? Are you touching on their pain points? Can they see how you're the easiest solution to their problems? If none of that is perceptible, then there's a breakdown in the way in which your brand is being promoted, and it definitely needs to be addressed. And that's what I help with. I'm also a TEDx speaker, so I had the pleasure of speaking in December on topics related to what I offer and help women um, with, which is really helping them understanding their own brand potential, own personal self-discovery, as I mentioned before, and promoting themselves in the highest ways to produce the best gains for them professionally. So I am that, and then I'm a #1 Amazon best-selling author. But really what I do, again, just to slather it on so you're clear, is I help people identify their brand value. Of course, clear mental and branding blocks, the things that get in the way of showcasing your brilliance. We want the diamond to shine, right? Then I help people monetize it. So that's that. I own a brand consulting firm called Baylor Brand Consulting, and I do personal branding, of course, which is all the branding related to you as a person, tying that back into the business brand. And then I do visual branding, which makes it very unique. I'm a one-stop shop. So not only can I help you with developing your message, I can help you also with putting together your business card, your flyer, your PowerPoint, banner, etc. So a little bit of a one-stop shop there. Okay, so enough about that. Just wanted you to have kind of a good background if we're just meeting for the first time. But let's dive right in, okay? So we have covered those mindset and brand habits that we want to kill and bury. And notice kind of like the aggression in this. I chose my words very wisely because you do want to kill and bury these issues. These issues are the main things that will hold you back, ladies. And I promise you, they will hold you back. And if you have felt like maybe I should be further along, maybe that, I know that I've wrestled through some things, and if I had given them up, I would have progressed it further. This is not a time to point fingers or condemn you, but it is a reality. I see that in my own life. I know I covered that on yesterday, not beating yourself up about it and, enjoying the journey. But at the same time, want to be aware that there are things that get in the way of our progress. And that's what we're covering today. So here is one mindset and brand habit that's really, it's a negative one, is one I definitely want to address, because I actually, encounter this when I'm interacting with a lot of women. And sometimes there's the underestimation that, I have to kind of be on it. I have to be responsible for everything. And then there's kind of this mentality that, if I'm gonna put it out there, then people just need to deal with it because I'm a real person. This is who I am. This is what I'm all about. And look, I'm for all of that. But I'm just here to make some suggestions to help, again, make sure that diamond of yours stays polished. Because remember, this comes down to polish and shine. If people see your value, they have no problem compensating your value. But if something gets in the way of them seeing your value, what do you think happens? That's where I step in. My job is to make sure, of course, your value is known, but also to make sure that you're watching out for those blind spots in those areas that can jeopardize your value. So I have a question for you. If this is kind of your mentality, like, look, I don't have to look after my brand. It's out there on autopilot. It's doing its own thing. It's fine. Well, I'm going to ask a few questions. If you're a parent of a toddler, do you need to watch the toddler at all times? That would be, the answer to that would be a yes, okay? If you have fried chicken in like an old traditional little skillet on the stove, do you need to watch that while it's frying? Yes. If you have a pot that's boiling something and can potentially boil over, do you need to watch that? Yes. And last but not least, when your fuel gauge says empty, can you just like take your eyes off it and be like, it's going to be all right? No. And in every instance that I posed and every visual that I gave for intentional reason. The truth is actually true. That whole principle is the same with monitoring your image. It's really important to keep your eye on something that's so precious, because we know that when you do not keep your eye on something, there's potential for there to be problems. And sometimes those problems can be just ridiculous. Like, for instance, this pan catching fire and then lighting up the entire house. By the way, when I was like really pregnant, it's always bringing back memories, because I have a scorch mark in my kitchen on my, I guess, linoleum floor, where I did something like this. Kind of was not paying attention, pan caught fire because I was having pregnancy cravings for French fries. It's neither here nor there. And then I decided to run out the building with the pan on fire, which also wasn't very smart. And anyway, my point is this: just like in a snap, things can go from seem like they're, being monitored and okay to not being okay. So that's why it's really, really important to watch things like the, items like the ones I mentioned, but more importantly, from a professional standpoint, it's so important to watch your brand. Because remember, your brand is your image and your reputation. It is that in the nutshell. It's the way people experience you. So for instance, if you have an employee who is not representing you and your values properly, and say, for instance, is talking to their, your clients any kind of way, well, then that's a reflection on your business. And if you're not watching that, imagine what could proliferate if that happens all the time. It can result in loss of clients. It can result in loss of spread of word of mouth. Or if they are spreading something about you is very negative. So therefore, it's really, really important to just kind of monitor and maintain, because danger always happens when we're not paying attention. And again, professionally and given your professional life is so important to pay attention. So I offer 3 little strategies for you. The first one is you want to implement a strategy to kind of monitor where you're at or kind of what your brand perceptions are. Occasionally you can ask people, kind of get an idea of what the impressions are of you. You can ask a few questions. You can Google your name, for instance, and kind of see what pops up about you professionally, your business, your services. That's a great way to monitor. And there's other methods to monitor, but you do want to monitor. The second suggestion is you want to have a brand brilliance strategy in place so that you know at all times what you are pumping out there about your image and your brand messages. And for those people that don't really subscribe to like, oh, well, why do I need a personal brand? Well, if you go back to one of my earlier slides, which showed how inundated or overcrowded social media for just one platform, well, one strategy of marketing. There's hundreds of platforms on social media. But if you see how oversaturated it is without a really sure, distinct message or a sure image that distinguishes you from anybody else, you're just going to blend in the crowd. So having a brand brilliance strategy is all about making you uniquely seen and allowing you to position yourself so that you can really, get the leverage and stuff that you need. So that's really, really important. So that's why the brand is necessary. And your brand brilliance is leveraging your own personal brilliance to make your brand that much more known. So without that in place, again, you're going to blend into the crowd. And if you're blending in the crowd, you're not standing out. If you're not standing out, then no one's really being able to see you. So definitely monitor it, have a brand brilliance strategy so that you are seen. And then you also want to constantly generate kind of new materials that keep, you floating out there fresh. And obviously, whenever you're generating something new, you want to make sure it aligns with your brand brilliance strategy so that you're always making sure that you're monitoring what's already out there, and then you're making sure that whatever you release is in sync with what your brand message is. So I hope that makes sense. So yes, your image does need to be monitored 24 hours. And by that, I'm not saying you're clicking on your social media nonstop. No, what I mean is that you're being mindful of what is being put out there on your end, and that you're also looking for what else is being associated with you. This is why sometimes with your extracurricular activities, it's important to think about what pictures am I, involved in. Whatever your message is or whatever your goals are in your professional goals, you just want to make sure there's things out there that aren't fighting against that. Because remember, it's the sin. I hate to say this, and this is probably a little off topic, but sometimes I've seen things blow up with clients, unfortunately, where their intentions were good, but because it didn't properly guard or have the right process in place, the blow up was more sensationalized and just overcast who they are, their skills and their service and their product or their career. So you definitely don't want to end up in that situation. Okay, and and just kind of to backtrack, this may seem like, oh my gosh, Victoria, I mean, this is so serious. But if you're thinking about this, and this is my plea is actually to encourage you not to take this lightly, because I sometimes there's a mentality to kind of treat your career, your business as kind of like a, well, it's on autopilot, it's doing its thing. I shouldn't have to invest so much. But the truth of the matter is, if you just take time to really get streamlined focus on all of your strategies, your brand brilliant strategy, the way in which you market your brand brilliant strategy, the what is your specific brand identity, if you can get really aligned with that, what you're going to find is that it's going to serve you better, and that really you'll end up having to do much less work. I think my problem is when I see women, they're always hustling, 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 hustling. You see them like they're doing everything. And that is kind of a red flag. Now, when you start out and you're building your brand, yeah, you kind of got to be out there in the streets, y'all. That's the only way you got to be seen and heard. But once that it's taken hold and you've really positioned yourself, is at that time, believe it or not, the calls start coming. People notice you, they see you, they want you. And then you realize you can back up and you're not trading time for dollars, and that more of your value is being seen and heard, and that you're being compensated for that value. So trust me, am I making this serious? Yes. Am I doing it intentionally? Yes. Because if you put in the work now, that means you have to work a little less later. It's like building a marriage, so you're always gonna have to work. But if you take time to really set down that foundation, well, it's like building anything for that matter. You build the foundation and everything's built off top of that, it will stand better. It will be firmer. You can't really expect to have the type of impact if you were building, like I want to be a 40-story skyscraper, when you have a very shoddy brand foundation. Build that foundation up, and then it's amazing what you can build even bigger when you have that in place. Okay, mindset issue, brand issue, bad habit, whatever you want to call it. You definitely want to kill and bury this one. This one is very, very common. And this is kind of sad because I think this always comes from a place of expectation and hopefulness. I've worked with clients that kind of had the mentality, and I think I did it once myself, that, it's kind of that old adage, if you build it, they will come. Well, technically, I believe that they will come if you build it. But I feel like you have to build it and then first advertise it, and then they will they will come. So you can't detach yourself from any responsibility in doing kind of the legwork. And again, especially when you're starting over and you're kind of building your brand, or if you're trying to take your brand to another level, you got to kick up the momentum, kick up your strategies. And if you don't have a strategy, then definitely you and I need to talk to figure out what is it that you want to accomplish, and what is the quickest and easiest way to get there. But this issue, I have to sit back and wait for my clients to come to me. Well, that could not be further from the truth. And if you do that, then you will probably not make more money than you did last year. You might even find yourself at a deficit. So if anything, this kind of mindset issue, which is a big mindset issue, and it leads to a lack of branding steps where you're actually out there doing the work, this issue stems from kind of a sense of passivity. So, if you're passive, well, not much of anything's going to happen. I mean, people could put food in front of your face on a table. If you're that passive and don't lift the fork, you're not eating. So if you kind of scroll back in your mind to one of my earlier slides, which talked about, again, I love to use social media as an example because it's an amazing marketing, kind of conglomerate. It's just tons of platforms out there. And as I mentioned even earlier today, that about people get, I think the statistic is, they get about 30,000 messages a day. So if you're not doing anything in the midst of all that hustle and bustle that people are seeing, then you definitely will not be seen. So the question I have is, what are you doing? How are you grabbing people's attention? And, according to statistics, it takes between 7 to 15 touches for people to actually buy from you. And we're not talking about physical touches. obviously, we're talking about, unless you have a business, you come in and people actually hug or something like that. But I'm talking about touches in a sense of how many times people experience you. So this actually goes back to that whole brand ideology. Branding is your personal brand, is your reputation, it is your image, but it's also the impressions you make on people. It's your promise, it's what they can expect from you. So just because you told me something once, I might not feel inclined to purchase. But if I see that over and over again, many different ways, testimonials, whether I'm seeing, you make collaborations with other people, when I see the things that strengthen my resolve and thoughts on who you are and the value you offer, it gets to a point that once that's, there's been enough touches, and sometimes that differs per person, then they're likely to jump in both feet and they are yours. And oftentimes it's how you build the most loyal customers that keep coming back. And even if they don't come back, they bring other people. But you have to go out and get your people. Your tribe isn't just going to track you down. It will eventually, when you get to that point where you've built so much momentum and you've built the skyscraper. So say, for instance, your brand right now was a little 2-story duplex, but you keep working, you keep working, you keep building, you have a 40-story building. Well, you can be anywhere in the city and see that. So see what I mean when I'm talking about actually taking time to build your brand brilliance. You're investing in yourself, you're building your identity, you're building the crux of the value, and in addition, you're also putting that net out there to bring in the right kind of clients. But they're not going to just come in. You have to market strategically, and your brand is a way of doing that, as I mentioned before. But you also have to be consistent in your methods, and your methods will be different for everyone. That's why I work with clients with one-on-one customized strategies for them, because your personalities are different. We're not all going to communicate and market the same way. So my last, as far as suggestions and tips, my question is, what is your strategy at the moment? What are you doing to actually pull in your clients? Bigger question is, do you even know what your brand brilliance is? And again, that's the sum total of all of the brand, what I like to call is your, I forgot the word. I hate when the word escapes me. It's your brand, it's right on the tip of my tongue, y'all. Just give me a second. I said it the other day when I talked in front of 100 and something business professionals. But anyway, it's all your brand collateral and assets. There you go. Was really your assets. It's all your brand assets that you bring together and you're able to showcase that really exponentially showcase your value. So if you have that together, then it's a matter of saying, how do I market this? But if you don't even know what that is, then I always have the question of what exactly are you marketing to people? And then, of course, last but not least, when things are going great with your clients, it's also great to think about what is your referral strategy. So how are you getting people that you've worked with that think well of you? How are you getting them to bring in new folks? So again, you don't get to sit back just yet until you make it to that place, and you will. But my point is that if you come in with this mindset, you're going to cut yourself off at the legs and prevent you from really running in your brain, in your professional career. Okay, and this is what we want. We want people talking about you. Okay, number 18. If I read and I learn about my branding struggle, I will get better. Well, this is one of those other things that is interesting. And for some people, this actually works if they have an idea of what their issues are. The only challenge I have about this is information and knowledge alone does not fix a problem. So have you ever met people that are super smart? It's not information they lack. What I love is the definition of wisdom, which is the right application of knowledge. So you could be a walking textbook on a lot of different things. It explains why people read all these relationship books and they're still not good on relationships. It explains why they can read. You can just read and amass information. More power to you. But when you don't know what to do with it, then it's just a collective of information. So remember, wisdom is being able to know how to apply it. The trick is, though, especially when it comes to ourselves, we tend to overestimate our ability to see and actually I guess our own awareness. So there was a study done in which there was a scientist actually screened a group of people to see how aware of various things they were. And most of the people were self-assured. They're like, I'm very aware. And it was 90% of the people said, yep, I know what's going on. But in all actuality, when they did the various tests, and like there was thousands of people, they found out it was about 10 to 15% that actually have that high level sensible self-awareness. So what I find personally, especially when I work with women, is that we tend to think, okay, yeah, I can fix this problem. I know what it is. But there is this huge schism between knowing by textbook how to do something and then applying it to a real living person. And the real challenge in that is that you're you. There's a lot of dynamics to your personality. There's a lot of rationale behind why you do something versus why you're not doing something. The mistakes you make, the reason why you struggle with your confidence is different than other women. And so if you can't get to the root of the problem, then it's hard to fix something by slapping a band-aid of, book knowledge on it. And that's what I love specifically about coaching, because I know I have that type of expertise where I can actually walk a woman through a lot of her struggles in ways in which she didn't even see what was really keeping her stuck. So I love that part. And again, that comes from just my own unique abilities in combination with, of course, certifications and specialized training, but I have that natural ability to do that. So there's that issue. So with that being said, we end up missing so much stuff if we're not as self-aware as we think we are. And the other thing I'd like to address is I love DIY. DIY is great. It's fun doing it yourself, but there are some things that doing it yourself is just going to cost you more in the long run. And I love, let's see, what I don't tend to mess with a lot of DIY. I mean, I sew, of course, so I can actually make clothing, but I don't mess with DIY. They're like fixing things in my house all the time because I'm like, look, I don't want to create a mess I can't fix. So with that being said, the same thing is true for you. I think I want to encourage us as women to take more time in investing in ourselves, connecting and align ourselves with the right things that would give us the changes we want professionally and help us get over the hurdles that we want. I think sometimes as women, we tend to, and this is probably a little bit off book, but we tend to take personally the issues that we have and we beat ourselves up for having the issues. So for instance, if you gain 10 or 20 pounds, instead of a woman stepping out and saying, hey, I've gained weight. Well, okay, it happens. It happens to the best of us. How am I going to actually move forward, find the clothing I need, look great, and continue to go on about my business? Well, instead with women, we tend to do the opposite of that. We tend to, first of all, just self-deprecate. It's like, oops, excuse me, sorry about that. We tend to, first of all, beat ourselves up that we found ourselves in that situation in the first place. We should have been able to say no. We should have been able to do this, that, and other. And then we try to squeeze ourselves into the same clothing, which is my current problem. And then you don't quite look the same. And then we beat ourselves up some more. So instead of taking a logical approach and just moving past, fixing the problem, then going back and evaluating, it's just, again, we get so caught up in our emotions. So time is really money. And the question is, do you want to resolve the problem, or do you just kind of want to try to self-diagnose and deal with getting stuck in your own mental mush? So with that being said, that of course, I believe in nonstop learning, definitely. You should be reading nonstop. You should be attending seminars, doing all of that. But if you find yourself stuck, especially in the area of branding yourself and really getting out there and finding your voice, or dealing with your lack of confidence, always nervous to give, an Instagram live video, terrified to get up and publicly speak, don't want to write that email. If you find that you're always being hit with the same thing, it's just, there's a sign that there's a deeper issue. And I want to encourage you to not feel like you have to internally process that, internally just kind of, I'm going to, go off to the side and try to figure this out myself. Do that. There's not a bad thing with doing that. But if you are stuck, get some help. Because again, the more time you spend not really pinpointing and figuring out the problem, the more time you spend in the problem. And like I tell my clients, especially when we were working together, I was like, look, within the first session, second session, you are going to be so unstuck, you're going to take off. And to me, it's more important to be unstuck than to try to justify putting yourself through the process of figuring it out on your own. So I hope that makes sense. And I think one great way to illustrate that is, I don't know if you've ever had the frustration of having a puzzle, maybe just kind of a little hand-me-down, getting through most of it, and then noticing some pieces were missing. That is so frustrating. And again, that's the kind of frustration that happens when we decide sometimes to, I'm going to figure this out on my own. I'm struggling through. And then we get to the end of it and we're like, look, I still have not got this thing put together. So definitely take time to invest in yourself and work with someone. There's no harm in that. Trust me, I have mentors, I've got coaches. I'm all for it. And again, I'm here to help you, support you if you need that. Number 19. Well, it seems like I spoiled the picture first. So number 19 is, that was supposed to be, let me fix this real quick. Forgive. Let's get this right so we can actually see the animation. And anyway, since I'm here, if anyone ever wants to know how to put their own PowerPoints together, I assist with that. So I'd like to definitely self-empower with that. Okay, so number 19. I'm scared to develop and promote myself. Ooh, this is a big one. I'm scared to develop and promote myself. And I have not found a bigger hurdle, especially mindset-wise. So it manifests itself kind of in the brand habit, what you don't do, what you don't say physically, all that. But it all starts in the mind. And there's no greater hurdle I feel that a lot of women struggle through, aside from this one and like a few others. But literally having this intimidation and kind of just lack of, how do I say? So an intimidation to promote oneself, kind of like a lack of confidence in doing it. And then this near borderline fear of, I'm going to be seen as someone that's arrogant and bragging. So when you kind of put all those pieces together, it makes it very complex. And oftentimes you as a woman can talk yourself out of actually promoting yourself. Because branding really is all that. I mean, that's when you boil it down. When you tap into your brand brilliance, you're actually showcasing the value you have. You're not doing it for the sake of just doing it. You're showcasing your value because your value helps to solve a problem for someone. You're helping someone. And in turn, they exchange money, whatever it is that you exchange for your value. And that's how the exchange happens. And they get what they need and their problem gets solved. So if you look at it from that standpoint, why not promote yourself? I tell my clients all the time, look, if you were a world heart-renowned surgeon, or you're a world-renowned heart surgeon, and I had a heart issue, and I was coming to you for help, and you were hiding in your office with the lights out, saying that you didn't want to see me because you didn't want to seem like you were bragging, I would be hot because I'm having an issue, and I need someone to solve the issue. And one thing that happens when we get in this little bit of a funk, we tend to make it more about ourselves than the needs of others. So from a mindset standpoint, one of the things that needs to be done, and it's easier said than done. This is why I spend a considerable amount of time working with my clients on this. It's about shifting the way you're seeing. So for you, we definitely need to shift things off of you and onto the person that needs you and what their struggles are. So, okay, so I'm scared to develop and promote myself. So let me take a look at my notes. This is, how would you act if you saw, okay, so let's start here with what the picture was. This was kind of a little bit of the, kind of a little bit, I spilled the beans a little early, but that's okay. Everybody knows what this is as a picture. This is a unicorn. No one has technically seen one in real life. We all know that. It's kind of mythical. However, if it was real and you saw one, how would you act? So I want you to think about your reaction. So here's this amazing kind of like mythical horse, and this is kind of a dulled down picture. Sometimes they make them look very beautiful horns and they look all, shiny and fancy, but If you saw this, what would you do? Some of you are stopping your tracks. Other of you are conditioned to pull out the phone, start taking pictures of it. You would instantly be Instagramming it, just all of that. It would just start this reaction and a favorable reaction. So my question for you is, let's shift it. Technically, you are the unicorn. You have brand brilliance. And if you know what that is, you become a unicorn. You become a one of your kind. And it sets you apart from everyone else. And maybe you have not thought of yourself like this, but you are. And the reason you haven't thought of yourself like this is because you don't know the full depth of the potential that you have and all of that other brand, all those other brand assets I mentioned to you. There's like 20 plus brand assets. And I work with my clients to really hone down and concentrate their brand brilliance. And in going through that process, they understand, oh goodness, I am the diamond, which in my case, I use the diamond a lot, but the diamond is just as synonymous with the unicorn. Beautiful, rare, multifaceted, kind of unique thing. Giant diamond is very unique. You're a walking diamond. But the question is, if you do not promote yourself, and the first issue is if you don't know what your brand brilliance is, that's part of the problem. But if you do know what it is and you're not promoting yourself, then you are a unicorn in hiding. And people can't see you, people can't marvel over you, people can't refer you, they can't do any of that. So obviously, what has to happen shift-wise to get you to the place where you see yourself like this? Remember I talk about doing things your own? That is a very hard thing to do. It takes years oftentimes because of a lot of the self-talk and internal talk and other messages we've gotten. And this is where coaching really comes in handy because it helps you get through those kind of blocks quicker so that you can actually hold your position and then get the response that happens when someone sees someone just like you that's pretty amazing that can do amazing things. So remember, again, it's a mindset issue. Issues like fear, lack of confidence block you from seeing that you do have this potential of being this unicorn. So if I had to give you 2 pointers, remember, it's all about bringing it back and thinking action. The first thing I would say is, what makes you different, first off? So that's always a great place to start. Because if you know what makes you different and you're sure in that, then that becomes the confidence to promote you. And when you know what you can do, there's more confidence to promote you. And the other thing I said I wanted is, I think what I mentioned before is that when we don't invest in ourselves, well, then again, we don't know what we have to work with. And this is the problem. So the thing I want to encourage you in is please take time to really invest in yourself. And mindset is a huge part of that. Mindset, getting your mind right, and then getting your brand brilliant strategy right, putting those two together makes magic happen. So again, back to your action plan. What are you doing? This is the final question. What are you doing to reveal your own inner unicorn to people? So what is it that makes you so unique? Have you invested time, if you don't know what that is, to figure out what that is? And then what are you doing to promote that? And remember, the fear was, I'm scared to develop and promote myself. Well, when you don't develop yourself, the worst thing happens. You don't know what makes you unique. And if you don't know what makes you unique, you can't feed the confidence that you, in doing certain things that you know you're going to do well, your confidence will never grow because you're not taking the action that's needed to grow your confidence. And then you're just going to stay stuck. So the work has to be done, but it's in really realizing that you have a fear in this department, in this area of self-promotion, and making the necessary steps to get over it. So that's that. So this will hold you back bigger than anything. So I'm believing in 2020 is your year. You're going to do what's necessary. You're going to make that phone call. Maybe make that phone call with me if you need to discuss what are your options and some strategies. But I want you to get to a place where you feel super confident promoting yourself, knowing how to promote yourself, because it's not all done by you. So there's other strategies where you get promotion, but it is done in a way that doesn't come off like bragging. And that's a conversation for another day. So anyway, I think we've discussed enough here. Definitely want you to start thinking about developing more of you and promoting more of you in 2020. And last but not least, we've made it to 20. Drum roll. If you can hear that, clap, clap, clap. It says, the more I do, the more successful I will be. Okay, so that kind of seems like it's right, sort of, kind of. But what I want to do is kind of readdress this a little bit. Okay, true enough, in theory, if you do more, you should get more. But in the world of your business or your career, oftentimes that's not exactly the mentality you want to have. For instance, if you're working one-on-one with clients, you don't want to increase maybe your one-on-ones, because that means you're doing more of something. And true enough, you're getting more money, but you're leveraging time and money. What you want to do is not leverage them together. You don't want to have to add more time to get more money. What you want to do is be able to do less, spend less time and get money, more money. So that requires very unique leveraging between the two of them. And I say that with the point of, I think sometimes as women, we tend to feel like, okay, I'm doing more. Excuse me, let me get a swig of water. We tend to think that, you know, if I add more to my plate, I'm going to accomplish more. And what I'm finding is that there is a ton of us that are burned out, stressed, and I mean, everything's falling apart. No longer juggling. And, you know, the fact that you're just not a professional, you oftentimes have personal lives, personal commitments, people depend on you. It just makes for a nasty, like very caustic environment. So what I'm encouraging you to do is to change your strategy in thinking about this. And this is one of the hardest things I find helping women with, because I think wired in us is that I'm woman, hear me roar. I'm every woman, it's all in me. I mean, even the music and the industry kind of, you know, there's this one part where we're always saying we are being torn down as women, but there's also this other part where we're being built up as like some demigoddesses that can just accomplish everything. You know, we can be mother, we can be father, we can be all this. And it's just, I think in our mind, we tend to think we're on this level. And then it's until we crash and burn, we realize we're incapable of this. So my recommendation definitely is to shift your thinking. You don't want to always do more to get more. You want to do what I like to call, you want to be able to concentrate what you're doing in such a way, or increase the value of what you're doing so that you will get more value, not necessarily increase more of it. So this is where oftentimes I'm always encouraging clients to definitely work on growing yourself internally. Do more coaching, do more, you know, whatever it takes to help you become an expert in your field. Do those things. So my question for you, I don't even have a picture for this. This is more of a one-on-one, have a moment of truthfulness. So my question for you is, what is that thing that you're doing a lot of that you're not getting a return of investment on? And it's just making you more and more frustrated. What is that thing that you're doing a lot of that is not giving you the best ROI? Okay, because you really want to pinpoint what that is. And then my second question is, how can you either develop that thing if it really resonates with your strength and your abilities and you should be doing it? How can you modify it so that you can add more value to it, but then not trade that value for time? So maybe it's something, for instance, if you're, you know, selling courses, there's a way which you can add value and then increase your package. So you can add other features to it that aren't necessarily time consuming, but they add to the value and then they justify you raising your price. Does that make sense? Or maybe there's people strategically that in your business that you can connect with, and that would mean that you would be able to take bigger steps in trying to connect with, you know, 10 people. Maybe there's this one person that can help you take a step in a bigger direction. So I want you to think about yourself as, I love this little illustration. It's kind of it goes back to the unicorn. I want you to really start shifting in the way you think of yourself and the way you honor yourself. Because there's this way in which we sling ourselves around like rag dolls as women that's really not very honoring. And then we justify it by saying, oh, I'm accomplishing so much good. But we accomplish so much good at our own personal detriment. So you really want to start honoring yourself and seeing yourself as such a unique and rare being that you want to scrutinize the decisions that you make. Are they using your value in the best way possible? And again, this is why it's so important to know your own value, ladies. This is why I preach that. And this is why I am invested in doing the internal work with my clients. Because I care about, as I told the group of people I spoke to the other day, I care about what you think about yourself. And as crazy as that seems, and maybe some people may think, oh, well, maybe you shouldn't care more than them. No, I don't care more than you, because I can't make your life be what it needs to be. You need to care more than me. But my goal in working with women is because I care what they think about themselves. And when I know they're not thinking the most of themselves, they are devaluing themselves. And if they are devaluing themselves internally, 9 times out of 10, they are devaluing themselves externally, and they're not getting the opportunities, the revenue, all the other things they are deserving of. But you have to first own your value. That's it in a nutshell. So, okay, so just to, again, dispel this nasty little mindset habit that can become a brand habit, because again, it starts in the mind. What are you thinking about yourself? Well, I'm thinking I need to do more, or I have to be always available for people, or if I promise that I'm going to do this, I need to do it for not just 1 or 2 people, I need to do it for 100 people. It's this idea of just putting so much on yourself and then thinking that's what amounts to success, versus really knowing your value and learning how to leverage that value that brings about the greater amount of good, that's very self-preserving, because you're burning yourself out is not going to help anybody, let alone yourself. And it allows you still to make the impact you want. So we're talking about working smarter, ladies, not necessarily harder. Okay. And then that's, for us, that is definitely an issue that we have sometimes. So anyway, so that's that. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and, before I stop the broadcast, first of all, thank you for your time. I appreciate our time together. If you have not been able to, please go back and watch the other 3 segments. This is an excellent way to start off your new year, even for years to come. This is a great refresher. Be very, very transparent. Definitely take time to think about, okay, how do I want to, or what of the 20 mindset and branding habits that I had, these negative ones, how many were ones that I, fall prey to, or ones that I actually do? And then definitely work through some of the strategies I mentioned to help you get through some of that. And a lot of the strategies were introductory. So if you want to go deeper and a little bit harder into this thing, definitely feel free to sign up. You can see in the box in yellow, sign up for your complimentary brand brilliance consultation. There's a link right there. Sign up for that and let's talk. Okay. Now I'm going to open the floor for questions. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the record.